Welcome back to the Lap Podcast. I am Tristan Rines, joined once again by Khaki Kevin Walker, who has made his return. Kevin was away from us on a little family escapade. Where'd you go, Kevin?
I went to Cooperstown, New York, with my father, and we did a trip to the MLB Hall of Fame. It was a ton of fun for those baseball nerds out there. You understand the whole gig. Fun fact, Cooperstown, New York, not anything like New York City whatsoever. Matter of fact, I would say it's much more like the mountain plains or something like that. It's in the middle of nowhere pretty much. So that
Kevin discovers that not all of New York is, New York
well,
City.
look, you're from there. I'm not. I've lived in Texas my entire life. The same way that New Yorkers think that all Texans ride Cowboys to work, the same way that all
Ride
Texans
Cowboys
think
to work?
Yeah, you know what I mean to say.
I don't know how you get to work, Kevin, but
I meant horses. We're off to
we're happy. We're happy to have Khaki Kevin back in the seat, though. This is your destination Formula One podcast, the Lap Podcast. Once again, we're following. Actually, excuse me. We're heading into the Azerbaijan Grand Prix weekend. We've got some fun driver rumor stuff to discuss with you. What's more likely for Baku, giving our predictions for this race weekend and more. But before we get this actually started proper and ready to go, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button to help support the channel. Costs you absolutely $0, 0 cents, nothing at all. We're so close to the 80 subscriber mark. We have a goal of trying to hit 100 before the end of this season. We're creeping closer and closer. You can be subscriber number 79 or 80. So join the TLPs in hitting the subscribe button. If you haven't yet, join the community. Give us a like, give us a comment, get the bell on to know every single time we're dropping a video. But with that out of the way, let's just hop right into this thing. Isack Hadjar, it seems that the premonition is beginning to come true. We got some reports coming out of, I believe, Autosport Spain, Spanish media. They feel like they know what's going to happen. They feel like they've got some good intel that Isack Hadjar is primed to join the Red Bull senior team in 2026 and beyond. Hadjar's performed incredibly well in the V-Carb this season, outperforming both drivers he's been alongside in the paddock, as well as the second Red Bull seat on the season. So starting off with this question, what does 2026 look like for Red Bull, Khaki Kev?
2026 for Red Bull looks like a lot of figuring things out, actually. A lot of figuring things out. A new power unit, obviously the new regulations, all the things that will entail, a new teammate for Max Verstappen again. But this time a younger guy, much younger guy. So it will be a year for Red Bull to kind of figure things out. I say they, not Max. They may not be as dominant as they once were in the past as they try to figure out what this new Ford partnership is going to look like. But I think for Red Bull, it's not the same old, so it has to be intriguing. It has to be interesting. It's going to be something to keep an eye on, especially as long as they keep Max around.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways to look at 2026 for Red Bull. If you're a Red Bull fan, if you're a spectator, you're just genuinely curious. I think there's a lot to bite on here. I think the Max Verstappen drama is going to continue with the new partnership, the overhaul in the regulations. There's not going to be a lot of carryover from the current set of regulations. So anything that Red Bull did right en route to winning, 3 straight championships within this regulation, Max winning his 4th straight last year, it's going to be different. The entire car makeup is going to be different. There is no Adrian Newey. There is no Christian Horner. A lot of the technical staff during the success decided to pick up and go elsewhere.
This is a new Red Bull squad.
This is all completely new. Lauren Mekes is running the show here. So
yeah,
I think the Max drama continues in one respect because they're probably going to take a notable step back. I don't think that's a wild assumption to make. I would be shell-shocked if Red Bull walk out in 2026 in Australia, blitz the field, and are sitting on pole position. Now, Max is phenomenally talented, but with this new partnership between Red Bull and Ford, there is no Honda, backing the engines anymore. They're off to Aston Martin. They joined Adrian Newey. right? They fell into the Lance and Lawrence Stroll allure, so to speak. Red Bull are going to be on their run. This is 70% Red Bull, 30% Ford, if I'm not mistaken. But for the first time in Red Bull's history, they're going to be making their own powertrains. They're going to be behind the development of this car from beginning to end, but with a lot of new faces, a lot of new goals, a lot of new challenges in this regulation. I don't think it's going to be shocking to see them step back in any respect. Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of summarized it though, but I mean, I don't entirely agree as far as saying you would be shell shocked. I wouldn't be. I mean, they're going to continue to have Max in there, and we've seen with the success from VCarb that Lauren Mekies obviously knows what he's doing, and he's got a very good grasp of what he's doing under the Red Bull garage, especially and under that Red Bull name. Yes, new powertrain, new units, all those new things. There's a lot of newness to this whole organization for Red Bull. But to say you'd be shell shocked, I don't entirely agree. It would be a little bit of a surprise to see Red Bull just back to dominance. It'd be kind of like
we thought this was
man,
over.
yeah,
we thought we had buried you, and here you are back better than ever.
Yeah.
And is Max Verstappen dominance going to bore Formula One fans in 2026?
It shouldn't.
I hope not. I think I really would be surprised though. It's just because there's so much new. It's
no,
one of those
I agree.
Like,
I would be surprised, but I think that there's a gap in between being surprised and being shell shocked that I just don't necessarily agree with.
Do I think that Max being relatively successful is going to be surprising? Maybe not, but I'm not expecting Red Bull to be sitting on pole when it comes to the end of the first qualifying session in Australia. The fundamental makeup of the car is completely changing. It's not like there's DRS anymore. The way that these cars had to brake and maneuver throughout the circuit, much less just like going through simulations, actually driving on track, actually going through the motions, actually figuring out how the hell to drive these cars. It's going to be an incredibly new challenge. The way that the braking works, they're going to be maybe even mid-braking within certain corners because so much of the power unit relies on battery makeup. It seems like, according to the reports, Mercedes have really nailed this. They are considered to have the best ahead of time. Ferrari there's reports coming out that Ferrari are going very ambitious with their car direction for 2026. Very bold and ambitious as far as what they're trying to do with the concept. But
yeah, they need to.
I mean, maybe it just depends on, of course, like how strong the engine is, right? Again, Mercedes feel like they're good, but with Red Bull, there is just so much new here. There is a lot of newness from the top down. I just don't expect them to just hit the ground running and be right back where they were to start, like they did in 2022, walking into 2023. The greatest designer of all time has been putting all of his time and effort now, not towards a Red Bull. They've been putting it towards an Aston Martin. Adrian Newey is no longer in the building. Red Bull are facing a very interesting period. However, for Hadjar and the team, this car is going to be a fresh slate within this new regulation. I think maybe the graduation, at least for Hadjar, let's circle back here, right? The graduation of the senior team isn't going to be as daunting as it has been for Liam Lawson, as it has been for Yuki Tsunoda, as it became for Checo Perez towards the end and a number of other Max's teammates. Not to say that he's going to walk in and dominate and beat Max Verstappen, but I think that starting with a car that solely isn't built to tailor towards Max, making it more drivable, making it a little bit more user-friendly, so to speak, I think Hadjar has a better chance. My question is, with everything going on in the background, with the speculation for Max, is this going to be the first step of it becoming maybe Isack Hadjar's team, right? If Max Verstappen is year to year considering other options, right? I believe the exit clause in Max's contract is no worse than fourth place in the constructors. So let's say Red Bull walk out, they're fifth, right? But they're fighting alongside maybe Aston Martin. Maybe they're fighting alongside Ferrari. Maybe they're fighting alongside McLaren. Maybe they're fighting alongside whoever, but they're just a little bit behind. I mean, exit clauses are exit clauses for a reason. That speculation begins to ramp up the same way it ramped up this year with him potentially going to Mercedes. That conversation being, when are they going to re-sign George Russell? Max Verstappen's waiting in the wings. Didn't work out. With that in mind, is Isack Hadjar potentially the future, Kevin?
Man, big hard-hitting questions my first week back. Not starting in 2026. And not even in 2020, not even in 2027. I think that Max has enough, dare I say, loyalty to here. Let me break it down like this, because even taking loyalty aside, Max has to do what's best for Max. We've both agreed there's really only one other team that makes sense for Max Verstappen, and that is, let's say it together, 1, 2, 3, Aston Martin. Okay, there's a little bit of a delay there. Anyway, so with that being said, Max might have to play the long game and wait for either of them to can Lance Stroll. I don't know how.
I think signing Max Verstappen is your sign. I don't think they have to do that first. I think if you sign Max Verstappen, the obvious is there.
I'm just saying he would either have to wait for that to happen or for Fernando to retire. Neither of those is probably going to happen within 26 or 27. Maybe in 28, because by the time 2028 rolls around, then now all these teams are established within the new regulations. We kind of have an idea of what that Ford powertrain is going to look like, what that partnership looks like. Maybe Max loves it. Maybe it revitalizes Max and he feels better than he did before. Maybe he absolutely hates it and he wants out immediately. I think that would be the tall tale sign. But I don't think Max is going to go 1 year into this new deal, 1 year into this these new regulations and be like, no, I want out. I think he would give it a little longer than that. And I think he'd give it more than 2 years.
I think I disagree, because we're going to walk into this reg and we're going to get an idea pretty quickly on where everybody stands. I don't think it's going to take him all of 2026 to realize, who the best teams are, what the best seat available is. If Aston Martin are that much closer to winning a championship than Red Bull, sorry, the loyalty lies in where can I get the most success? Where can I be the biggest? Where can I chase championships? And if Red Bull are falling further and further back, this is a complete overhaul, like I mentioned. The opportunity for Hadjar to really be the face of a very iconic brand, being the face of a championship level team, as it develops around him, might be a better prospect for a younger driver than Max. Max, respectfully, he's 28. He's not, as old as Fernando Alonso, who, with all due respect, I don't necessarily think he's going to make it all the way to 2027, 2028. That's going to be a year-to-year question.
I think but jumping in here, I think that's when Max will be able to sit there and say, okay, do I like what I've gotten from Red Bull so far, or is now the time to make that move?
I think that we'll know what Max's intentions are I think his contract exists through 2028. I think we're going to know pretty quickly, though, what his intentions are probably before the summer break next season. I think that he's just going to look around and see what's available. Obviously, Mercedes are looking to tie their guys down long-term. That doesn't seem like it's going to be a viable seat. McLaren obviously have their guys long-term. Ferrari have their guys long-term. So as far as those other big three teams, it's maybe not there, but Aston Martin are putting all the infrastructure in. They have all the money there. They have Adrian Newey there. They have the Honda power unit as well. I see there being a lot of positive reason for him to go. Now, it's on Red Bull to me to keep Max. And I know I started the segment asking or proposing that Isack Hadjar, again, going to Red Bull in 2026. I do want to kind of bring it back to this. For Isack Hadjar, yes, I still see this as a massive opportunity for him. Maybe he's looking for a championship level car too, but at the same time, for a young driver to really have a team develop and build around you and it be one of these major players on the grid, I don't necessarily expect Red Bull to be back at the pack. I would imagine VCARB would at least be that buffer, but I don't necessarily expect them to just jump off and surprise a bunch of people. I think Max maybe is good enough to pull a car that maybe is a midfield car, keep it competitive, maybe in the top 6 places. But over the course of a season, over the trend of a season, I think that very well is going to start looking a lot more like maybe a Max leaves. This just leaves a huge opportunity open for Isack Hadjar to become the face for Red Bull.
All right,
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, let's do this. Let's go ahead and, because we don't want to talk about Red Bull and Isack Hadjar for 45 minutes. So let's go ahead and do this, because I kind of have an idea of where you're leaning with this. And it's not, I don't agree entirely, which it's okay. That it's okay to disagree, ladies and gentlemen, but I think that we should do this. 2026, Isack Hadjar, Max Verstappen lineup, Ford partnership. You expect Red Bull to place where in the constructors by the end of the year?
End of the season. Maybe this is me having more faith in Aston Martin, but I think that they're probably hugging about 5th place.
Okay.
That's the Red Bull senior team. I think V-Carb are probably a few places back behind that. It's just because there's so much new. And with all due respect to Lauren Mekies, like Lauren Mekies is touted as a much more technical guy. In having Hadjar there, I think that he could really put together a car around him that suits him well. And the technical team that is there, I think they could do a good job for Hadjar. I just don't know that this is going to be a car that is going to start off and surprise a bunch of people. This partnership has, I would argue, is relatively new. It's in the last few years that they announced this. You know, they've had a couple of years to kind of get this developed and get going, but
yeah,
you're all on your own aspect of it. You don't have a Honda to go back to and say, hey, we need more power. We need this. We need that. You don't have a Mercedes to go call and pick up the phone and say, hey, we need this. They used to be with Renault. You can't pick up and do that. They're leaving the sport. This is all on you if you're Red Bull. I just think there's going to be a big learning curve. And especially given how many people have left, how many people are going to be new faces, and with how much newness there is even with this Ford partnership in 2026, yeah, I just expect them to take a step back. I think they're hugging for P5, maybe P4 if they're really ambitious. I don't think they're going to be I don't think they're going to be fighting at the very, very back, but I don't know. I just don't think it's going to get off to a great start. I think the Mercedes power unit, considering all the conversation around it, I would expect McLaren to be in that mix. I would expect Mercedes to, of course, be in that mix. I think Williams and Aston Martin Williams are going to benefit greatly from it. Alpine are probably going to perform a little better than they have this year. Of course, they're dead last in the constructors. I imagine they get a bump just purely because they're going to be driving what is considered to be the best engine to start this next regulation. Everything else, of course, aerodynamics, driver, et cetera, that can make some of those differences, strategy. But, they're performance-wise, you're going to just see a bump from a few of those teams. As far as what this means for V-Carb as well, because obviously losing Isack Hadjar affects this team. We've talked a lot about what the lineup is going to look like. I think you and I probably agree that it's going to be Max Hadjar and Red Bull. This is what, the news is kind of alluding to here. And then Liam Lawson and Arvid Lindblad are probably going to be that duo for V-Carb. I feel like as Formula One fans, we're really just waiting for the official announcement for this lineup for 2026. The question about Yuki Tsunoda, we've asked a lot. My assumption was that he was going to be going to Aston Martin, maybe playing a reserve role. Something did cross my timeline that I wanted to bring up that I thought was interesting as we close out this segment, that Yuki Tsunoda could very well have a home with Alpine. I hadn't really talked about it here, but I don't see there being a ton of obstacles there, at least not on first glance. He gets along incredibly well.
I agree.
He gets along incredibly well with Pierre Gasly. They have no consistency in the second driver. They're not a team that you're expecting a lot of right now. They can play around with a guy like Yuki, who brings a lot of really good marketing. He's good for social media. He's well liked by the fans. And you pair him up with a guy he's got a great working relationship with, at least in Pierre Gasly. It's a mess behind the scenes at Alpine, but if they could get the driver duo, at least stable, I think Yuki's at least a better option right now than Colapinto and certainly Jack Doohan.
You know what? I hadn't thought about that either, but I do like that. I enjoy that perspective, because I could sit here and say I like Yuki Tsunoda's upside as a driver on the track, off the track, personality, team-wise, more than what you're getting from Franco Colapinto or Jack Doohan.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Agreed.
And if you agree, that's great. TLPs, let us know if you agree. I know that we haven't always sang Yuki Tsunoda's praises, but I think that could be a good fit for him, and that's definitely something to keep an eye on.
I would argue he's at least a much more stable driver than the other two. He's not going to put it in the wall as much as Franco Colapinto has. He may get you the some odd point here and there. There's a learning curve when it comes to infrastructure, but I don't see why that might not be the move. I don't see anybody else in the market right now that jumps out as like, you absolutely need to sign this guy. Valtteri Bottas and Checo Perez are Cadillac drivers beginning in 2026. If you're Alpine, I don't hate that as a potential swing.
Well, I think anywhere else he's probably a reserve driver.
Agreed.
Yeah. So I think if that opportunity came knocking, I think that would be a very interesting offer for him.
And with all the moves yet to be announced, how do you think Hadjar is going to fare TLPs? You know, if he does make the jump to Red Bull, what is that going to look like? Where does Yuki land? Is Alpine like a realistic option? Just let us know down in the comments, guys. I want to know what you think. We're looking for that engagement. And if you say something interesting, we'll probably talk about it right here on the podcast. But we got to move forward. We spent a little bit longer on that segment than I think I was expecting. This one, maybe we're not going to spend as much time on. Sprint races. They have been announced for 2026. Chinese Grand Prix weekend is going to feature a sprint. Miami Grand Prix, Canadian, British, the Dutch Grand Prix, as well as the Singapore Grand Prix. Question to Kevin. Yeah, I'll start with this. Do you enjoy the sprint? Do you enjoy the sprint format? Do you think it adds to the race weekend?
I am indifferent. I don't want it gone, but I don't care if it's there either. I would just settle and say that I'm indifferent.
They could do away with the sprint. I'm saying this, I guess, maybe as this is a selfish statement, and I'm sure Formula One would disagree, because I understand why they have them. But I could do away with the sprint just because I can tune into the qualifying, or not the qualifying, like the practice highlights on a Friday. You know, don't have to worry about a sprint qualifying on a Friday. Then I got to worry about a sprint race on the Saturday morning. Then I got to worry about actual race qualifying in the afternoon. Then the feature race on the Sunday. I'm a busy man. I'm trying to spread my time out amongst friends and family and hobbies and interests. As much as I do love Formula One, that's, I think I would appreciate a little extra time in my personal life, as much as I'm going to sit down and tune in and watch Formula One on a Sunday.
Well, maybe more importantly, what do the drivers want?
Oh, the drivers hate it. And I don't think the teams like it either. I saw this comment from Esteban Ocon. He was speaking to French media. He was asked about the sprints, and he said, we live in a consumer world where we seek out content more often. We watch a Netflix series, don't want to wait between sessions. At the same time, sometimes it's important to wait patiently and enjoy the Grand Prix. And I don't think I disagree. The sprints have not always been a feature of the Formula One calendar. Historically, you just have your practice sessions, you have your qualifying, and you go racing on your Sunday. The sprints, they can kind of hinder a weekend for a team. Like, they can really hamper a team. You get one practice session. Hopefully the weather conditions are, relatively consistent through the weekend, right? There's one aspect.
Yeah.
But if you have an inconsistent weather pattern for the entire weekend, what data you get on a Friday, you're not going to be able to really translate comfortably into a Saturday sprint, into a Sunday feature race. Because once the car's in Parc Ferme, ready to go for the sprint race, sprint qualifying, you can't change it. Then again, on Sunday, I don't think they can do much more than make some small alterations between then and then. You're not really getting much more out of a sprint race. And the benefit to the drivers in first place is just 8 points. It's not a massive swing to the championship. It gives, people like us more to talk about maybe following a weekend. But I would argue that we walk into a podcast and we're very quick to dismiss what happened on the sprint race because the feature race is just that much more interesting, much more conversational. So even from a media perspective, I can't say I love it. It is what it is. F1 wants it because of the commercialism, right? They can put some more money into it. They get some more branding for it. They get some more advertising for it. So the sport, it's, commercially positive, but for the teams and for the drivers and even for some of the fans, I don't think they necessarily enjoy it.
Is it fair to say that a sprint gets disregarded like a practice?
Not so much. And that's what I mean. Like, it doesn't benefit the teams because if you, let's say you're not going to win the sprint, then you're basically utilizing the sprint race as, okay, let's try to get as much data as we can. But I think teams really would prefer to maximize as much data as they can get, data over the course of 3 practice sessions before qualifying. And then
I think what I meant was, do you think that the sprint race gets disregarded as a practice from a viewership standpoint? I don't imagine, obviously I don't have the numbers or the analytics in front of me. I would imagine the viewership for a sprint race is not near as high as the viewership for an actual Grand Prix.
No, it's not as high for the actual feature race. And maybe it's because people, again, they have lives. They want to do other things on a weekend. But I think they get viewership. I'm not going to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, at least not on my schedule, not on my free time, to watch a sprint race. I'll wake up and, watch it on my own time, or if it's, I'll just watch the highlights if it gets spoiled for me. I think the onus on the importance of a sprint race is less important to me. And maybe the average fan probably, I can't speak for everybody, but I imagine there's probably a lot of fans out there that are like, I could do without it. Doesn't really affect my weekend. Unless you're like die hard. I can't wait for every practice session. I watch the entire hour, and I watch every sprint, and I watch every single race. I am locked in from beginning to end of broadcast. That person, they don't care. That's not the general audience. I'm just saying.
I would say I get more thrill out of a qualifying than a sprint.
Agreed. 100%. There's stakes. Even the sprint qualifying, it's like, it's neat, but by the time you get around to the feature race, like if the weather conditions have changed a little bit, you know what I mean? Like teams, the problem with the sprint qualifying is that you get one practice to kind of figure out your car.
It's just not enough.
It's not enough. It's just not enough. Either give them another practice session, or here's where I was also going to go with it, make the sprints more interesting. Shark on the track. Hey, that could be interesting. No, in all seriousness,
they're making them race. They're making them race practically on the sun. So, they're going to make them race out there in the high heat. So you want to make it interesting. They made it interesting.
No, to be completely honest, F2 does this interestingly. So they do a reverse grid. So they do a full qualifying. Grid. So they do a full qualifying session on Saturday. And then they do a reverse grid of the top 10. So first place goes to 10th, 10th goes to first. The cars are all relatively even in Formula 2, or at least a little bit closer. So you do get to see some of the talent come out of some of these drivers who can make more overtakes, right? And the sprint races are actually worth something in F2. Maybe not as high point-wise, but there's not as many races in an F2 season. So the points, everywhere you can get them, they do matter. It gives you a display of racecraft from the back, who can pass, who can make up more places to get as many constructor points. But it also gives some of these mid to low field teams opportunities to grab the highlight of their season, at least for me. If you're an F1 and let's say you're Gabriel Bortoleto, getting P10 is already an accomplishment for the feature race. That's going to be a good point at the end of the race if you can hang on to it. But imagine you're starting on the front row on a sprint race, and you got an opportunity to get the stake F1 team or next year Audi 8 points for the constructors. I think it makes the midfield fights a lot more interesting. And even the back of the pack, I think it makes things a lot more interesting.
I agree. I would like a backwards grid. Kind of make it, add chaos. When in doubt, add chaos. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I think I would agree. Overall, though, I think as it stands, it needs to either be tweaked or just scrap it. The drivers don't care. I think Max Verstappen secured the championship a couple years ago during a sprint, and he was like, "Yeah, it's cool. I'm happy I won the championship. Really hard fought win, but we're really worried about Sunday's feature race." And it was kind of an underwhelming moment because he won it on a sprint. Oh, okay. Well, we still got more work to do this weekend, guys. Can't really celebrate this yet.
It doesn't really feel the same. Yeah,
it doesn't. But let's move on to one of my favorite new segments. We've only done this
I've enjoyed this so far,
but I really liked this last time. It's time for What's More Likely, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Kevin and I
go first.
Kevin, I'm okay with it. Kevin and I have brought together our questions as we walk into this Grand Prix weekend for each other. And it's going to just be a fun, topical conversation. And, give it up. This is a very fun segment. One clap. There we go. 4 claps.
Just a PSA to the TLPs. We don't share questions with each other, so we blindside each other with these questions.
Yeah.
We don't. We really don't do show prep like that. So, all right.
Well, that's not true. I show prep. I don't know about you.
But not like we don't sit in a studio and all right, I'm going to ask you this question, then you pretend that you've never.
No. The fun of this is not knowing the question that's coming. So I'll let you start, Kevin. What is your first one?
Let's do. All right, I'm going to do my second one. I'm going to do my second one first. All right.
Whatever order.
What's more likely? I pass you in P10 standings, Orlando wins the drivers' championship.
All right. For reference, our P10 standings, I have a 46-point lead with 8 races to go.
I can show them.
Yeah, go ahead. Pop them up. Yep. 198 to 152. This is the P10 game. If you are uninformed, you're only watching this segment on YouTube. It's our way of predicting the race. So, podcast listeners, you get to see these at the end of every episode. What's more likely, that you pass me or Lando wins the championship? I would say it is more likely that Lando wins the championship than you pass me.
Damn. That's tough.
I think it is more likely that Oscar Piastri has, I'm not trying to jinx this, I'll knock on wood for the
generational downfall.
I think it's more likely that Oscar Piastri has 2 to 3 non-points finishes and Lando Norris can capitalize, then I drop 46 points unanswered to Khaki Kevin.
Well, that's how the TLPs feel about it. So
look, you guys can root for him all you want, but I'm not the one making his predictions. He makes his predictions. What do you think, Kevin? What do you think is more likely?
Honestly, Lando winning the drivers' championship, just because I want that to happen. All right, okay. I wanted to get started off with a fun one. The second one's a little bit more serious, but that one was a fun one, so I wanted to get it started off with a fun one.
Well, here, let me hit you with mine. Okay, Alex Albon in Baku lands P6, or Lewis Hamilton grabs P4.
That's so specific.
It is very specific. So P6 are better for Albon, P4 are better for Lewis Hamilton. So just off the podium. His best result in a feature race this year has been a P4. He is not podiumed yet. You got
this is feature race? You're talking about feature race, right? Okay.
Well, there is no, I don't think there's a sprint this weekend.
All right.
I can check that in case you need me to.
Yeah, just double check it, because sometimes my app will confuse me.
But you know what? That just goes to show we have completely forgotten about sprint races as we do.
Actually, my phone says Azerbaijan is indeed a sprint race.
Yeah, it said that before and it was wrong.
Okay, so just double check it.
I'm doing it right now. This is
cross-check content. Cross-check.
Yeah, I'm giving you all the time in the world to answer this question, buddy.
I am going to lean.
No, there isn't. Not for F1. What? Not for F1. There is only one for F2. So there is no sprint race. It is all just regular. Yep.
I thought I
need to get a new app.
Right.
Anyway, this is riveting content. I need your answer. Is Alex Albon going to P6 or better in Baku, or is Lewis Hamilton going to P4 or better? I know there's a margin.
Albon P6 or better. Albon P6 or better.
I think I would agree. It's just been such a rough go for Lewis at points this year that
I think P4 is just too lofty for him right now.
I think he's just kind of mentally kind of checking out. Obviously, he's a competitor. Yeah. He's going to want to do the best he can, but it feels like with time ticking down, it's becoming less and less of a prospect that Ferrari are going to, get Lewis on a podium. He's quite a bit behind Charles when it comes to general race week in, week out. He's still adjusting to life. I just don't see it. I think Alex Albon's having a terrific season by comparison, and P6, he's done it, I think, twice this year already. So here this weekend, I would say Alex Albon.
Okay.
Go ahead, Kevin.
That was my pick, so I guess we'll just agree. All right. What's more likely? Also, you forgot to start it with the question. What's more likely? McLaren clinches the championship in Baku, or a field win top step?
Well, you've kind of hinted at something that I was going to actually mention in the race and the track talk in 60. McLaren are going to win the constructors this weekend. The circumstances it would take for them to not win, I think, are a lot tougher because Lando last year fought back from P16 to P4. This is a circuit that he's performed well at. Obviously, Piastri last year with DRS gate did win. He won on merit. He had a hell of a race, and then the FIA had to be like, oh, we got to clamp down a little bit more on these flexi wings. But no, I would say McLaren are probably going to win the constructors this weekend. I think they could if they get a 1-2, no matter what, they win. If they get a 1-3, and I think Ferrari don't finish in second place, then they win as well. So I think there's way more work that needs to be done. I think that McLaren are 100% going to walk away with the constructors this weekend. So, okay. And my final, what's more likely? What's more likely, Khaki Kevin Walker? We get 3 rookies scoring points this weekend, or 3 retirements this Grand Prix.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Hadjar.
I appreciate that's good. Yeah, because you would assume Hadjar, probably Kimi are going to be hovering around points, right? But you got to hope that Behrman does it, Bortoleto does it, maybe Colapinto. Or we get 3 DNFs.
Can you do me a favor? How many DNFs did we have last year in Baku?
That's a great question. I'm happy you asked it because I did the exact same line of thinking when I was trying to think of these questions. Let me see the results real quick. Last year, I can tell you for a fact there were some. There were 4. I didn't even have to look it up. There were 4.
Who are our suspects?
Because Checo Perez and Carlos Sainz crashed into each other fighting over the final podium place in Baku last year, and finished in 17th and 18th. And then Lance Stroll also crashed, and Yuki Tsunoda also crashed. So we had 4 DNFs in Baku last year.
So we have 2 regulars and then a crash. That's how I see it. And
TLPs, feel free to please chime in the comments below. I had a lot of fun putting this question together.
Yeah, this one's hard. This one's kind of tough. I'm going to say it's more likely that 3 rookies finish in the points.
I like that you said that.
I'm gonna say
which rookies,
and I knew you were gonna ask. We've been doing this for a while. I knew you were gonna ask. Behrman, Kimi, and Hadjar.
Okay. Yeah, I think I would agree. I would probably lean that direction. Bortoleto, though, he's had some good races this year. I wouldn't put it past him. I am going to take the odds makers side on Franco Colapinto not scoring points this weekend. I don't even need to know the line. I'm not a betting man, but I'd put 10 on it. He ain't got it. Argentinians are going to be mad in the comments, and that's fine. So that all out of the way. I appreciate your enthusiasm for that one. That one was a lot of fun. Year before that, 2 DNFs. I think the year before that, even more. Baku is a very interesting circuit, which you're about to find out in my track talk in 60. But, man, unforgiving street circuit walls. They do not give the same way they give in Monaco and Baku. They just do not. So, well, you going to prime me up? You let me breathe for a moment? Let me get my sip of water. Right. You want to tease the people what's about to happen here?
All right, what's about to happen is Tristan's going to give a 60-second breakdown on the track of Baku in Azerbaijan, and he's going to do so swiftly and efficiently. Did you get your water? I was trying to give you time to get your water.
I'm good. I'm ready to go.
All right. And then I'm going to play this on the screen. That's going to not work. All right, you're just going to have to take my word for it. All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
Well, walking into Baku, it is a street circuit this weekend. We've got 51 laps of action to anticipate, 6 kilometers or 3.7 miles per lap race lap record belongs to Charles Leclerc in 2019 with a 1 minute 43 seconds and 9 thousandths of a second. Charles Leclerc also has, or that was this race, qualifying 1:42.03 from Charles Leclerc in 2023. Sergio Perez, surprisingly, most wins here, 2021 and 2023. DRS zones, 2 main straight to turn 1, turn 2, main straight down to turn 1, and then turn 2 to turn 3. First winner was Nico Rosberg with Mercedes back in 2016, called the European Grand Prix. Then, fun facts, McLaren can lock up the Constructors' Championship this weekend with a 1-2 or a 1-3, depending on how things turn out with Ferrari and Mercedes. Ollie Behrman, 2 points away from a race ban heading into this weekend as well. Keep your eyes on that. And weather this weekend, chances of rain, mostly cloudy, feature race, 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 21 degrees Celsius. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I appreciate
Ladies
it.
and gentlemen,
I
is.
I imagine all the TLPs holding their smartphones right now, watching this TikTok short. Just clap their hands for me as well. So I appreciate your enthusiasm.
All right. Without any further ado, let's get into these predictions.
Yep. I'm ready to go. I've already got mine set, done, dusted. Hopefully we didn't pick the same people. If not, I'll have to amend because I've got the lead. Let's just be.
We'll show the TLPs one more time, just in case.
Yeah. If you watch the full episode on YouTube, appreciate it. Subscribe. But you saw this chart earlier. Let me explain how the P10 game works. If you're new to
do explain, Tristan.
Yeah, P10. This is the way that we predict every race weekend. The sliding scale you see on the right there is a sliding scale of points from P1 all the way down to P20. Getting 10th place correct nets you 25 points. Getting first place, 20th, you only get 1. This is a sliding scale going downwards. You get a bonus 5 points for every race winner you pick correctly, and a first retirement bonus. So if 2 drivers crash, that counts. But if somebody has a do not start, like Nico Hülkenberg this past race weekend in Monza, did the formation lap, couldn't actually start the feature race, that still counts. So with that explained and Kevin having time to think about his prediction,
I already have mine.
I want to start with Kevin. Who do you think is our first DNF/DNS/crash of the weekend?
Throughout the year of P10s, sometimes we like to pick random drivers that we're like, oh, they're due. They're not normally ones that crash, but they're due. This is not one of those occurrences. We're going to go back to the well. We're going to pick a driver that we pick sometimes, and we're going to go with Yuki Tsunoda.
Yuki Tsunoda. Oh, poor Yuki. I think he's got a couple this year. I have it written down somewhere, I promise. Yuki already has 1, if I'm not mistaken, at the very least. Let me check. Yeah, he has 1. Yuki Tsunoda did have a DNF, a first DNF, alongside Pierre Gasly in Jeddah this year. So, not the favorite by any means, I would say, based on the numbers, but, Yuki Tsunoda has already had his incident. He's due. My DNF this week is Pierre Gasly. I think that he's due. Pierre Gasly, I don't know if you know this, is actually leading the way with DNFs this year. The most first crash DNFs so far this season. He had a DNF in China. He had a DNF in Jeddah. And he had a DNF in one more spot. Oh, yeah, in Monaco. So I'm going to go back to the well. Give me Pierre Gasly. Give me the unreliability of the Alpine. Who do you think wins this Grand Prix Sunday?
Oh, my boy. Lando Norris.
Lando? He's not going to be inhibited by a penalty this time or a mess up in Q3?
Nope. He's going to take the win. Going to keep this thing interesting. For those that forgot, he's going to remind them that he's that dude. And he's going to finish 6 seconds ahead of everybody else.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. My winner, man, if I'm a consistent man, you know me, and I am a consistent man, give me Oscar Piastri. I'm going to say he repeats here. I'm going to say he repeats in Baku. He's going to put, the hand on the shoulder of your boy Lando Norris and just let him know.
It was a good try.
Hey, buddy, it ain't happening. Give me Oscar Piastri. It's just the performance is better this year. He had a hell of a win last year, but I think he's going to be right up there. P10, Kevin Walker. A very crucial selection for you trying to make this comeback happen.
I've waffled back and forth on who I was going to go with here. And one of our discussions earlier on in the show kind of leaned me this way. I'm going to go with a name that I don't think I've gone with at all this year. I am going to go Oliver Bearman as my P10 pick.
Man, you're funny. You're very funny because that's who I was going to pick. That is, I honestly had it written down. I was prepared. I was like, you know what? Ollie Bearman, Mr. Consistency. I'll go dangerous though. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go with Gabriel Bortoleto.
Okay.
I'm going to go Gabriel Bortoleto. I think he's going to surprise people this weekend. I think he has the potential. He had a really good stretch going up to the summer break. And this is just one of those weekends. I think one of the stakes is going to be there. And if not, well, winner, chicken dinner for Kevin. He's got a lot of ground to make up. So we'll take it. I'll amend. I want to make this P10 exciting for the both of us.
Oh, don't even.
But come on, we got to keep this interesting for the people, for the culture. Look, with all that being said, though, a fun episode. That's going to do it for this episode of the Lap Podcast. A bit of a muted ramp up, if I'm being honest, news-wise, but we appreciate you listening in, watching on YouTube, if that's your choice. I want to thank you guys all the way to the end here. If you haven't joined the rest of the TLPs, you watched or listened all the way to the end, you aren't subscribed, what the hell are you doing? Hit the subscribe button. Support us. It costs nothing at all on whatever format you're listening to us on, watching us on. It costs you nothing to support the TLPs. Subscribe to the channel. If you haven't, get the bell on that, every single time that we're dropping a video. Hit the like button. Feel free to comment. Let us know how full of it we are. We appreciate it nonetheless. But with all that being said, until next time, that's Khaki Kevin Walker. I'm Tristan Rines. Be safe. Be well. Let's go racing.